What's the difference between money and currency? In order to understand why cryptocurrencies are the best thing to ever happen to money since gold, first we must understand the difference between money and currency and how Bitcoin is the next step in the evolution of money. First, let's start with money. Money is defined as something generally accepted as a medium of exchange, a measure of value, or a means of payment. And in order for it to qualify as money, it must be generally accepted, meaning everybody agrees to its use; portable, meaning you can transport it easily; durable, meaning it won't easily degrade; divisible, meaning you could break it down into smaller denominations; fungible, meaning a dollar in my pocket can buy the same amount as a dollar in your pocket; and stable, meaning it could store its value over long periods of time. Currency, on the other hand, has a lot of the same characteristics as money without the stability over long periods of time. That is because currency is simply paper or coins that a government creates and bestows buying power upon it. The problem with currency is it's not scarce. So as the government prints more of it, it dilutes the amount in circulation, causing a devaluing of the currency's buying power. This is known as inflation. Now, before we move on, let's look at the evolution of money as we know it. Around 25,000 years ago, a hunter killed a buffalo and wanted to distribute the meat to the rest of the tribe. As he distributed the meat, he needed a way to keep track of who he gave some to, so he created the world's first ledger system. You give me stones, I give you meat. Ta-da! The world's first money was born. And for thousands of years, this is how people kept track of their debts. Trade within one tribe was easy because everybody agreed to the value of the items that they were trading. But over time, challenges arose when trying to trade between different villages who had different views on value. So a universal ledger and monetary system that could be adopted on a large scale was needed. And they had to pick something that was universally scarce, portable, durable, divisible, fungible, and stable. Well, what about gold? Gold is almost the perfect form of money, and about 5,000 years ago, people started to develop an attitude towards gold that was passed down from generation to generation. Kings, queens, emperors, pharaohs, they would all create coins with their faces on it, hoard it, speculate with it, and wear it around their necks. And for a while, gold worked really great as a commodity currency. However, there was one major downside to gold. It's really freaking hard to move large amounts of it at one time. So, banks were created to store the gold, and in China, paper currency was created as an IOU for the gold, silk, or silver that was being stored by the bank. Eventually, the rest of the world caught on to this concept, and paper currency was adopted by each individual government. And if it wasn't for the fact that throughout history, people have constantly been searching for ways to improve, this may be the end of our story. But then, in 1944, right after World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement was signed by the United States, Canada, Western Europe, Australia, and Japan, which essentially fixed the value of 35 US dollars to 1 troy ounce of gold. Other countries then pegged their currency to the US dollar at fixed rates, and the United States promised to redeem dollars with gold if asked by other central banks. This effectively corrected the currency trade imbalances, and the American dollar was the most used currency in the world. And you know what? Life was pretty sweet with paper currency. And then in 1946, a savvy banker named John Biggins created the world's first credit card that he called Charge It, as a way for local stores to offer credit to patrons of the bank. As the issuer of the cards, the bank would pay the stores and assume responsibility for collecting the debt from the Charge It card holders. And even though this was a truly novel concept at the time, eventually more and more people got used to the fact that they could carry around a credit card instead of cash, and the universal credit card industry was born. Then in 1971 came along Richard Nixon. I'm not a crook. And he wasn't a fan of the Bretton Woods Agreement. So he effectively did away with the gold standard by unilaterally canceling direct international convertibility of the United States dollar to gold, effectively creating a freely floating exchange rate between major world currencies. Whew. So in an instant, we went from a commodity-backed currency to a fiat currency. Fiat is Latin for let it be done. And fiat money gets its value assigned to it by the government and is only as good as the underlying intrinsic credit of the government that issues it. As long as the government doesn't overspend or overprint money, the fiat system actually works pretty well. But we know how this story's playing out. Since 1971, The US alone has printed trillions of dollars, digitally created trillions more, and racked up over $21 trillion worth of debt, all while greedy bankers and Wall Street types make trillions more, charging us fees and making bad investments. How much longer do you think we can put off confronting these issues before all of this catches up to us? What does this all mean for our children and our children's children? Is our current monetary system just one big scam? A massive Ponzi scheme that will one day come crumbling down? Fiat currency just doesn't have no value, it has negative value. The government continues to print money and essentially borrow from the Fed in order to pay just the interest on its debts. And here's a little fun fact. Did you know that today, the purchasing power of $1 from 1959 is now a little under 12 cents? 12 freaking cents! That's inflation at its finest, and nothing is going to stop this train as long as politicians keep kicking the can down the road and racking up more debt. And now that you've had this little history lesson, let me ask you a new set of questions. Knowing what you now know, don't you think that it's time for money to evolve and power to shift away from the governments and the banks to the people that they're supposed to serve? Technology has evolved, politics has evolved, shouldn't money evolve too? This is where cryptocurrencies come into play. You see, in 2008, during the worst financial crisis this world has ever seen, Satoshi Nakamoto released a white paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, where he outlined the entire Bitcoin concept. And while many people have tried to introduce digital money, Bitcoin was the first fully developed cryptocurrency concept that took off, and here's why. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized. That means there's no central entity that regulates or controls it. They're cheap to transfer or hold. Open source technology allows it to be held or traded efficiently. They have privacy protection. This is because of the transparent public ledger, which gives complete visibility for all transactions. There's a freedom to transact, meaning you can easily send it peer-to-peer without needing a company or a bank or a middleman in the middle of the transaction. They're easy to use. A Bitcoin address can be easy to set up, and sending money is as easy as sending an email. They are faster, and this is because there's no merchants to pass through. There's no risk of chargebacks. That's because of the approved nature of the transaction and the fact that it's immutable. Cryptos are durable. Bitcoin cannot be destroyed or damaged like fiat currency. They are internationally accepted. They don't need to be converted to other currencies when transferred from one country to another. They are portable. Bitcoin is electronic, so it's easy to store and carry. And with cryptos, there's reduced fraud. The receiver of payments does not see any information from the sender that could be used to steal money. Sounds like a dream, right? The thing is, this isn't some far-fetched concept being theorized by tinfoil hat anarchists in a basement. It's already here. It's working, and it's beginning to turn the heads of people from any and all economic backgrounds across the world. Look. Not too long ago, cryptographers, coders, and gamers got together and built out the early framework of Bitcoin. And now, just a few short years later, there are thousands and thousands of new cryptocurrencies that have been built upon that framework. Some that value faster transfer speeds, some that have cheaper transaction fees, and some that prioritize privacy. The list goes on and on. We could truly be on the cusp of a new world-changing technology. The same way that the internet forever changed society and its ability to share information freely and instantly across the planet. The same way that social media has altered how we communicate between our friends and family, cryptocurrency could forever change the way we store and use our wealth on a global scale. Imagine a world where money you work so hard for doesn't get its value from the wheelings and dealings of shady bureaucrats. Imagine a world where the billions of people in poverty-stricken nations that don't even have access to financial services could use a medium that is valued by a worldwide community, not their government or the banks. The sudden explosion of fiat being funneled into Bitcoin and altcoins shows that interest is building at an incredible rate. And while the future of cryptocurrency and its effects on the world may be uncertain, it's also an exciting glimpse into what the future could hold.